Dan said it would be like this.
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 That catchphrase is still used on Delmarva, even though the promo hasn't aired in years.
Dan said it would be like this.
Well, depending on where you are, it's either a cold, damp night or a rather snowy night across the area.
Dan Satterfield has been the weather authority around here for 12 years. Draper Media President Craig Jahelka.
Look, Dan is among the top meteorologists in the country when it comes to television, but he's got an encyclopedic knowledge of the weather, which he loves to share with us. When you watch him, you can see like he's a little kid in the candy store. He gets excited about the weather.
Look at that, Roy. Look at that. This is amazing. My third total solar eclipse. It's howling. It's wicked. Look at the ocean right now. These are 17-foot waves coming in. I'm on a side road here down near the university. I want to show you. I'm standing in the street. So just to give you an idea here, can you see my feet? I'll just bend down and put my hand down here. There's the road. Okay? You're not going anywhere today.
And along the way, we always learned something.
Dan is amazing in the way he can take numbers and turn them into information and make you understand things.
So if you think of this tube of air, this helicity, getting tilted up like this, stretched into a thunderstorm into a skinny rope, then it spins much faster. And if conditions are just right, you can get a tornado to form.
From Smyrna to Accomack and everywhere in between, people from all walks have relied on Dan's expertise, but especially when the weather turns deadly.
This is a flash flood emergency for Cambridge.
We've heard from people who tell us that they think that they're alive today because of what Dan Satterfield and WBOC did to give them early warnings. I mean, that's probably the best testament to what he has done here.
The National Award for Broadcast Meteorology. This year's recipient, WBOC Chief Meteorologist Dan Satterfield.
A storied career recognized by some of the top weather experts in the country.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan, you've done a great job all these years, and I want you to have a wonderful retirement.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
I would like to give a few personal words on Dan Satterfield's retirement. There's going to be nobody like Dan who did the forecast tremendously over the years in the peninsula. And I will mention that I've been watching Dan now for almost a decade. In fact, I go back to when I used to stay in hotels in far north is Dover, Delaware, and the TVs would have WBOC in their channel lineup, and I would always look forward to watching Dan's forecast. And ever since 2017, I would always look forward to putting Dan on my Emerson TV in my room in my condo in Ocean City. So I'm just going to say this. It's going to certainly feel a little bit interesting getting used to John Conway doing the forecast. John is going to do a great job going forward. I have faith now that Chief Meteorologist Mike Lynchiak is going to continue doing the tremendous job that he has always been known doing, and Dan's not going anywhere. You know, Dan's still going to be somewhere in the peninsula. He's going to be teaching meteorology in Salisbury, so you'll see Dan from time to time, maybe on the airwaves. Maybe he'll fill in on occasion, but yeah. It's just going to feel like there's a missing piece of the WBOC news team. So, Dan, thank you for informing Delmarva for many years. And I also want to mention Dan did a good job also covering the weather in Huntsville, Alabama. So Dan has had a tremendous career and best wishes in retirement. It's well-deserved for doing meteorology for so many years, and especially him being in the AMS as a fellow. It's going to feel very, again, different not seeing Dan on my TV anymore in Delmarva, but time for new generation of meteorology. And as I said, I think John Conway will do that job very well. So without further ado, we're now going to play the tape of Dan's last forecast from last night's 7 p.m. newscast.
Okay, let's do this one last time. I think I've done 20,000 weathercasts over the years, but after 45 years, this is it. I'm retiring. 4:46 a.m. at Snow Hill, 7:57 is high tide at Ocean City. Small craft advisory tomorrow. We're going to have a good southwest wind out there at 15 to 20 knots. And that small craft advisory goes for the Delaware Bay as well. 9:31 high tide at Bowers Beach. On the Chesapeake Bay tomorrow, small craft advisory, high tide 5:30 a.m. at Kent Island, about 1 a.m. at Chrisfield. 2 to 3 foot waves. It's going to be pretty bumpy out there. So here's what you can expect. It's going to be a blustery All Hallows Eve. Tomorrow's All Saints Day. Windy tomorrow, still warm, but cool front will come through about 6. And then the air will dry back out, and it'll be notably cooler for the weekend. Highs only in the mid-60s. We're going to lose about 15 degrees over the weekend behind this next front. There's nothing to see on radar. Switch to the satellite imagery here. Look at that dark ground. Now it's getting a little lighter gray now. That's the ground cooling off on this thermal infrared imagery here. We do have some high clouds. They're going to start to move in later tonight ahead of a cool front. The front itself is just approaching Ohio right now. Some light rain with this front, extending actually some heavier rains down in Mississippi, and they're actually going to get a little rain in North Alabama too. Birmingham's gone through all of October without a drop of rain. They may get some before midnight there, but it's not going to be much. And by the time this front gets here, 1/100 of an inch, 2/100 of an inch tomorrow afternoon. That's about it. The air behind this front's chilly. The real cold air is building up here in Canada. We're going to get a shot of that probably a week from tomorrow. That's a front you're going to notice. I saw lows in the single digits, well north of Winnipeg, up near the 60-degree line, or as the Canadians say, north of 60. It got cold up there this morning. That air will come southeast, but not for 8 days. This front, though, will come through tomorrow evening. We'll cool back down. The high today hit 80 in Georgetown, 79 Salisbury. No, we didn't break the record. The record in Salisbury is 82. So we were a little bit shy. There's just too much wind today. That mixes the air up, keeps the nights warmer and the days cooler when the wind's blowing. 70 in Salisbury right now, Seaford at 72, 75 at D.C. The air, dew points up in the upper 50s. Now, I got to tell you, if it had been a normal October, our dew points would have been in the upper 60s today. But there's just no moisture in the ground. The ground is just bone dry. South wind out there at 10, southwest at 15 at Salisbury. Here's the IBM graph model. It's got a nice southwest wind at 9 o'clock in the morning. Watch that temperature tomorrow hit 78 briefly. And then by 6 o'clock, here comes the front. Winds turn to the north tomorrow night. And then Saturday, 11:30 a.m., partly cloudy. We're in the upper 50s. We'll top out about 64, 65 Saturday. We'll clear up in the afternoon. And we'll have a breeze out of the north Saturday night. We're heading down into the 30s. For tonight, though, mild and breezy, low 64. Our normal high is 63. Some parts of Delmarva, the normal high is 62, so our low tonight will be above the normal high. But then tomorrow, we'll stop at around 77 or 78. Southwest wind, then west at 14 to 26. Winds turn to the north after dark tomorrow. Beaches 76 with blue skies. I'll say blue skies, but we may have a cloudy spell in the afternoon tomorrow as that front comes in, maybe even a sprinkle. And then the weekend is chilly, 60s Saturday and Sunday, upper 60s Monday, back into the 70s Tuesday, upper 70s Wednesday. Another front will get here on Friday. That's the way it is. So it goes.